Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast, all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest on Better Than I Found It is Tyler Isenhart, a fourth-year senior from Chicago, Illinois. He's the third in a series of 3 senior interviews that we've done on Better Than I Found It. Tyler, very quiet and reserved on the outside. He's a great thinker, intelligent kid, incredible student, great teammate, and honestly, the guys say he's the funniest guy on the team. So hopefully we get some of that personality today out of that interview. Tyler has improved 5 strokes in his scoring average in the last year. He's going to give us some examples as to why he's improved. But Tyler just shows you how you can be a great student and a great golfer at the same time. I really enjoy having him on the team, and I think you'll enjoy this interview. All right, Better Than I Found It listeners, let's give a big welcome to Baylor golfer Tyler Isenhart from Chicago. Tyler, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. You know, every winter, basically we do on this podcast, we do our seniors interviews. So guys that are seniors on the team. I think had Luke Dossie on a couple weeks ago, Johnny Kiefer. His podcast just dropped this morning, and you'll be here in a week or so. So I appreciate you doing that. I like the fact that we get to let Baylor people especially know about the student athletes that are currently on the team here at Baylor. And, you know, we're real proud of you guys and real thankful that you're here. But I know it's kind of a busy time of year academically. So thanks for taking a few minutes out to do this. But talk about that. You've got finals coming up.
Yeah, finals are coming up and starting in a couple days, actually. But just spend the next few days getting ready for that, and it's crazy. The semester's almost over. Feels like it's gone by so fast.
Well, get used to it. I don't think anything slows down as you get older. I think that it's been kind of crazy. Actually, you've been here 3.5 years. That part is also mind-blowing to me. I remember the first time I saw you, which we'll talk about in a minute. It just seems like a few years ago, but boy, it's been a long time ago. So finals coming up. That's always a nerve-wracking time, was for me. I know that it was a week that I couldn't get over with quickly enough. Are you feeling like you're prepared, in good shape?
Yeah, I feel like I'll have a couple tests that are tough and definitely need a lot of studying for, but I think I'll be ready for it.
Okay. And Christmas break, you'll spend part of it in Chicago and part in Arizona, or all of it?
I'm actually not going to Chicago at all, so escaping the cold weather.
Well, see there, that shows me you're really getting smarter as you get older because, man, if it was December, I would never go north. I would almost always go someplace south or out in Arizona where it's rough. So you're going to go out there and play a little bit of golf in Arizona?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in Chicago for Thanksgiving break, and that's enough for me. That's enough.
As I recall, you told me it got into the 50s a couple of days up there, though. So
yeah, the weather was actually a lot better than it normally is.
Well, anyway, I know we're all looking forward to a break. Christmas break's always a good time and kind of catch our breath before we get ready for a big spring season. And we're going to talk about the fall season you've just played, the spring season we're getting ready to play. But I just want to make sure everybody knew you were getting ready for finals this week. So looking forward to that. You know, with players, I always like to go back and kind of see what their influences were early on. You know, I talked to Johnny Kiefer last week. I mean, he was literally a lacrosse player. Mm-hmm. He wasn't much of a golfer, honestly. And your story's a little bit similar in the fact that you really weren't a serious golfer till, the 8th grade. Is that right?
Yeah. So my dad's he's a good golfer. He introduced me to golf when I was young, but I never really had too much of an interest in playing it. I always wanted to play baseball. And
what position did you play in baseball?
I was pitcher and second base.
What could you bring the heat? Probably in the 7th grade, probably 65 miles an hour.
Yeah. I had a nice curveball.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but he got me into golf, and I chose baseball instead. But eventually, as I just kept playing more and more golf, I chose to make the decision to switch over.
Was your dad disappointed, do you think, a little bit, harboring a little disappointment when you were playing baseball instead of golf?
I think he probably was. He didn't didn't really show it to me. He kind of let me make my own decision, which I think was great. So when I did go into golf, I was fully focused on that.
My dad was a country club golf professional, and he did the same thing for me. I mean, he introduced me to golf, but he certainly didn't make me play, and I'm convinced that it's the reason I play golf today, or that I've spent my whole life in golf, is because I wasn't forced to do it. So kudos to your dad for allowing you to come to the game naturally. But you literally are at a Power 5 conference golf school, and you really didn't take up the game seriously until the 8th grade. That's an unusual path.
Yeah. I also have a crazy story I was thinking about.
Okay.
Is that when I was playing baseball, like sometime in middle school, I played a golf tournament, and I'm obviously a baseball player at the time, and I shot 129.
Oh my gosh.
That was my first event. So
you shot 129.
Mm-hmm.
I guess your dad probably realized you were more of a baseball player at that point.
Yeah. I don't know how I decided to play golf after shooting that, but somehow.
What time of the year was that? I mean, tell me it was in the snow.
No, it was in the summer.
Okay. Wow, 129. Okay, and I guess that shows that you at least had perseverance to persevere through 129 shots in one round.
Yeah.
Nice.
And like when I was playing baseball and right when I quit, I was probably shooting around 90, and then maybe a year later I was shooting mid to low 70s already, so it was definitely a quick improvement.
Well,
but
I mean,
started late.
You got a late start, relatively speaking, when you think about, Division I golf. That's definitely a later start. It's obvious it doesn't matter where you start, it's how you finish, but you're a Midwest golfer too. You're from Chicago, Illinois. That's not it's a hub for incredible golf courses. I mean, Chicago to me is one of the great golf towns in the entire world. I literally love driving through the neighborhoods of Chicago, and then all of a sudden you come across a golf course. They played a U.S. Open there in 1925, and then you just drive another 2 miles and you come across another great golf course. So golf-wise, it's a great golf town. But weather-wise, you lose quite a few months out of the year. I mean, what's the longest golf season you played in junior high or high school?
Well, high school every year ends around October 15th, and that tournament can get pretty crazy sometimes.
You're talking about the state championship?
Yeah. So my senior year was 35 and rainy and windy for the front nine, and then the back nine switched. Then it was all snow for the back nine. And
how'd you play that day?
I think I was around even par, and we'll get to in a second, but the round didn't finish. We were on 15, and there was so much snow on the ground, but they weren't calling the round, and I had to hit a putt from like 8 feet for par or something, and I left it about 5 feet short because there's just an inch of snow on the ground, and they had to cancel the round. But yeah, the weather's crazy. Sometimes from November to February, you're probably definitely not playing golf.
Well, I've recruited some kids. I mean, you were my first recruit outside of the state of Texas to Baylor. But when I was at Oklahoma State, I had started recruiting kids from the Midwest. And I think if a young man can develop a game in the North or in the Midwest or up a little further north where the weather's tougher, I think he's going to make a really good college player. Do you think it's an advantage or disadvantage? And tell me why that you grew up in Chicago to be a good golfer.
I think it's both. When you're there, I would say it's overall a disadvantage, but it's really nice to understand how to play in some difficult weather, and it's just good to be able to take some time off and still get into golf. I think if you're hitting in a net for 3 months and then suddenly you get some good weather, you really appreciate going out to play golf. And
I always remember growing up, Jack Nicklaus talked about playing basketball. He talked about playing football. He talked about the natural break that you had in Columbus, Ohio for the winter. You didn't play golf. You put your clubs up. And he ended up being one of the greatest players that's ever lived, ever hit a golf ball. And I think there's a huge enthusiasm you get when you haven't been able to go out for a while, and then you get out and get to play. So you don't you don't think it's a real big a disadvantage then?
I mean, when I was playing competitive golf up there, I would say it was always a slower start to the spring, just because you're hitting inside all winter, and then you go outside, you have to deal with wind, cold weather. It's not really the same. It's hard to translate the swings from inside to outside, but I think there's definitely a lot of benefits too.
Well, I know a lot of great players that come from there. I mean, recent years, Steve Stricker from Wisconsin, you obviously had Jack Nicklaus and several other players that came from the north. So I'm not saying it should be a disadvantage or an advantage, but I think most of life is what your reaction to it anyway. So I remember when I was a high school coach, it was probably 1995, and we hadn't gotten a chance to get outside and qualify. And we had a day where it was going to be 35 to 40 with a potential for snow. And I told the kids, we're qualifying, we're going to play 9 holes. And one of the kids in front of the team said, well, this is easy for you to make that decision, Coach, because you don't have to play and you can bundle up. And I said, well, I'll just play. And so I played that day. That was a big mistake. But I did shoot the lowest score. And it was not good, and nobody played well that day. And we actually had snow on the greens when we finished. I'm okay with bad weather. I think it's okay. I love good weather, though, trust me, but I'm okay with bad weather. So our first meeting was at one of my favorite golf courses in the world. It was at Olympia Fields in Chicago. So your high school coach, Brian Knapp, and I don't know if he was an official employee of the school, but he was definitely coaching the team, correct?
Yeah, he coached for all 4 years that I was there, but he's no longer there. But he was the assistant high school coach.
Okay, well, anyway, he was somebody who had a big impact on your career. But he had written me an email, the week before we went up to Chicago for that tournament, and said, hey, Coach, I just want you to know I'm gonna come out to. He didn't tell me he was going to bring you, but I'm going to come out to Olympia Fields and watch, and just wanted to say hello. So I said, fine, shake my hand when I see you, and he did, and he had you standing right next to him, and we were right in the middle of the round, so I just said hello and walked off. But little did I know, years later, you'd be coming to Baylor. But I remember that meeting. You didn't look very old. You were a very young-looking kid.
Yeah, it was cool that he introduced me to you. I think he's definitely one of the main reasons I came to Baylor. He gave me your number, and you were actually the first golf coach I've ever called on the phone.
I was?
Yeah.
How was that conversation?
I think it went pretty well. I was pretty young, and I don't think I was really the best golfer at the time, so it was pretty cool that you were on the call with me.
Well, I appreciated all the things your coach had to say about you as a person, which was great. That rule has changed. You wouldn't be able to make that call, and I wouldn't be able to take that call today because you were too young. I think it was sometime in your sophomore year. And in those days, any age kid could call a coach. Now we can't do that. It's June 15th after your sophomore year. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, what got you to Baylor? Brian had an influence because he thought that I might be a good coach for you. But what are some of the other things that attracted you to Baylor?
Well, I think I started taking a lot of visits in the Midwest, and then I realized that I might want to look at some schools with better weather and good facilities year round that I can get better at.
What were some of the other schools you considered? I know you were being recruited by quite a few.
Yeah, well, in the Midwest, I was looking at like Northwestern, Notre Dame, Michigan, and then after that, I visited Vanderbilt and Pepperdine. And
wow.
ASU.
Very nice. So
I went to some good schools in some warmer weather, and then eventually Baylor was my last visit, and I wanted to go here.
I love it. Baylor people always say that, once you've been on campus for 4 years, it's a place you'll always want to come back. I hope you feel that way. I hope that's going to be the case for you. But we're glad we got you here regardless. You've been on the team now for 3.5 years. We're almost finishing second semester of your fourth year at Baylor. Our first semester of your fourth year. I can't believe that. So a lot of people don't know you. I wouldn't call you the most boisterous, loud person I've ever met. In fact, a lot of guys in the team would say, by nature, you're pretty quiet and reserved. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I'd say I would probably definitely more quiet than most on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. In fact, I've got 3 quotes regarding listening or being quiet or whatever that I want to give right now. One of them is unknown. I don't know who this quote is attributed to, but it says, "If you can't improve on silence, then don't speak." And I've always loved that. And we always love to hear our own voice, it seems like. And like, I know one thing, I've never learned anything when I've been talking. I only learn when I'm listening. You do a great job of listening. Second quote that I really like, my grandfather, my mom's dad, gave this to me when I was 14. I was always talking all the time, especially in tournaments, and he noticed that, and he thought that was bad. He gave me this quote that he cut out of the newspaper. It says, "You can't keep your mouth and your mind open at the same time." So you need to think and listen. And then the third quote I have, which I really like, is, "The smartest and most successful person in the room is often doing more listening than talking." So all 3 of those quotes, in my opinion, kind of relate to Tyler Isenhart. You're a thinker, you listen a lot, you're more quiet and reserved in general, which some people would say, well, is he just shy? I said, well, I don't know. Your teammates don't think so. Your teammates say you're the funniest guy on the team. Any truth to that?
I don't know. I think it's nice for them to say that.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, they say that you don't talk that often, but when you do, people should listen. And you're one of the greatest at putting in a jab when that's really, really funny. Do you have any examples of that? Can you think of or not? No?
I don't know. I feel like at the house we always go back and forth a little bit. There's always some funny things said. Can't think of too much right now.
That's okay. That's all right. So you've had 3 roommates, basically. You've had more than that, but you've had 3 roommates you lived with the whole time. One of them was Scout McNeely, who graduated in 3 years last May. The other is Johnny Kiefer and Luke Dossie, current team members that are your roommates. So I'm going to ask you to describe each of them. I've asked Luke to do it, and I've asked Johnny to do it. Now I'm going to ask you to do it. Describe Luke Dossie, either in one word or just a small sentence.
Luke's definitely he's a hard worker. He's in a very, spends a lot of time on golf, spends a lot of time on school, and he does a good job balancing that. I think he's a good example for the team, good leader, and a lot of guys follow him on his example for school and golf.
I'd agree with that. Johnny Kiefer from San Antonio.
I would say Johnny's one of the most competitive guys I've ever met, for sure. If you're playing him in golf, playing him in really anything, he's going to want to win. And when he loses, it's fun to beat him. He definitely gets really mad.
Well, I remember one time a year ago we were having a putting competition on the putting green at Ridgewood Country Club. And I'll never forget, Johnny was so mad, and I was kind of smiling because I thought, okay, now he's out of his element here. He's so angry at himself right now. He wasn't angry at anybody else. He was so mad at himself. I think back.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got some, for like golf specifically, he's got some really high standards, and that's one of the reasons he's so good, because if he's just barely off, I'm watching the round, I'm thinking, his game looks good to me, and then he's not happy about it. He spends a lot of time practicing, even when I think it's pretty good. He wants to be pretty much perfect.
So you'd say he's one of the more competitive guys you ever been around?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, perfect. Well, I agree with that. He is that way. That's great. And Scout McNeely, who graduated last May, was my second non-Texas kid to come to Baylor. He committed right after you did. He's from California, but tell me about Scout. Describe him.
Scout's one of my best friends for sure. He's graduated now, but I still keep in contact with him a lot, and I'd say he's one of the most disciplined guys I've met. He puts so much effort towards anything that he does, whether it's golf or school. He's had some injuries in the past, and I think he's very optimistic on his outlook on life, and he's really just a good example to follow. I think he very, very intelligent, and he's a good example for me to follow when putting a lot of work towards golf and school.
What about his sense of humor?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the funniest guys at Baylor, for sure. I'd say he's really fun to be around, really fun to live with, and we always had a good time in the house.
Well, we've mentioned 3 of your teammates. I'm going to ask you about a couple more here in a second, but that's the great part about college golf, in my opinion. I still am very good friends with a guy named Kent Todd, who I roomed with for all my college career and for several years afterward. And Kent and I still talk to this day. You're going to have teammates that you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life. I could see you and Scout were really good buds, so I assume you and Scout will definitely be friends for life. That's a special deal about college golf.
I definitely think so.
Well, all right. So anybody else on the team? Any fact about somebody I need to know right now and the whole world needs to know? Anything interesting?
I would say I'll talk about a couple guys on the team.
Go.
So, Drew Wrightson on the team. I'd say similar to Scout, he's probably the hardest worker I've ever seen with school. He puts towards so much effort. Sometimes it seems like it's too much towards school, but he still finds time for golf, and then it's really impressive. And then I would say Zach and Luke Morgan are some of the funniest guys on the team. I think I would say I'm really good friends with everyone on the team, and it's just fun to be around. It's a really good group of guys, and they're definitely my best friends.
So college golf, great experience, period, right? So what would you tell a 14-year-old 8th grader who's kind of been playing competitive golf that he wants to be at a Division I school like you? Is there any information or any tip or any wisdom or advice you could give a 14-year-old? Because you didn't know it at the time, but that's where you were going to end up. How did that happen?
I would say surround yourself with good players and play a lot of competitive events, because I'd say there's only so much you can do on your own with practicing and trying to get better. If you can set your goals to beat someone you're playing with and play competitively, always get better, I think you're going to definitely improve a lot more quickly. Like in college, everyone's kind of keeping each other accountable, and everyone's trying to get better together. So for me, when I'm looking at someone like Cooper, who used to be on the team, or Johnny, like they're really good players. There's been some other seniors that have been great players that are going pro right now, and I'm kind of looking at their games and trying to figure out how I can get better and get onto that level.
Well, I know that college golf is providing that experience for you, but you're also getting education while you're going at it. I would say this. Your improvement from a year ago till now has been pretty drastic. It's been pretty obvious. A couple things I'm going to say is, one, I think you played more competitive golf this summer than you've ever played. In fact, you played more competitive rounds than anybody on our team this summer. You had a really, really strong summer. And then, obviously, you're just stepping up your game for whatever reason. So I'm going to ask you you went from a 75.5 average last year to right now 70.9. So you're averaging under 71 for, I think we played in maybe 12 competitive rounds this fall. What's the biggest difference? Why have you gotten better so fast?
I would say just sticking to a solid routine. I'm definitely not too much of a technical player, but I found the same like putting drills, same fundamentals with my swing that I would focus on, and I just kept working on those. Like, for an example, before every qualifying round and every tournament round, I would do the same putting drill every time, and I think I just found some consistency in what I was working on, and then started to see some results show because of that, and then I gained some confidence and went from there. And we played well in the first qualifying of the year, went up to Minnesota and had a good event, and just tried to keep continuing it from there.
Yeah, I was looking at it. 7 of your 12 rounds are 71 or under or better, and your final round of the fall was a 66 at the Bear Brawl at Ridgewood Country Club, and that included, I think, a bogey on the last hole, maybe.
I think it was the second to last
Second
hole,
to last
yeah.
hole, number 2, a pretty short par 4 that you had driven it up near the green and made bogey. But that 66, I think that's your low competitive round at Baylor, and your 70.9 scoring average is the best you've also been. So last summer, I told your former high school golf coach, Brian, that I knew you were going to play more tournaments this summer, but he said, oh yeah, I know, I'm going to caddy for him. So Brian caddied for you a good portion of this summer. How did that help, just kind of continue your development?
Yeah, it was great. He caddied for me in basically every event this summer, and really thankful for him for that. I think he's definitely been a big part of my golf game. It's nice to just have someone to walk with on the course and stay relaxed, talk through some shots, and just have fun while you're out there, not make anything too stressful. He's caddied for me all my junior career and USAM qualifiers and the USAM, and we've definitely had some stressful moments too, but it's been a lot of fun having a caddy.
Well, I know this. I've walked with you this fall 5 complete rounds. Enjoy it. You're one of the easiest guys to walk with that I've ever walked with in college golf. Sometimes I want to get you fired up, but I realize inside there's probably a lot churning inside, that we can't see on the outside because you are so calm on the outside.
Yeah, I think sometimes I try not to show too much emotion, whether it's a bad shot. I think I do a really good job on keeping some negative emotions out, but sometimes it's tough to not think about it. But yeah, I want to thank you for walking with me all fall. I thought we worked well together.
Very well together, and I'm seeing a lot of the fruits of your labor, all the work you've been doing, especially it wasn't a surprise to me that you played well this fall because you had played so well all summer and you kind of came in on it. But let's talk about something I meant to ask you earlier in the recruiting process. Not that many players that I coach have played in 2 U.S. amateurs before they get to college. I mean, that's kind of unusual. And you played and made match play in 1 U.S. junior. But what's really incredible is those 2 U.S. AMs and 1 U.S. junior, you played some amazing golf courses. You played Riviera and Pebble Beach in the U.S. AM and Baltusrol in the U.S. junior. Talk about those golf courses. What are some of your favorite aspects about those courses and just those that incredible stretch you had?
Yeah, it was awesome. Playing Riviera, Pebble, Baltusrol, those are probably my 3 favorite courses I've ever played. And the secondary courses for all those events were almost just as good, playing Bel Air, Spyglass, and another course at Baltusrol. But I would probably say Pebble is my favorite course. I think it's hard to beat with the views you have out there. And I think Spyglass is one of the most underrated golf courses for sure. That one's amazing.
Jack Nicklaus's lowest round all the years he ever played at Spyglass. This may be incorrect information, but I always remember him saying he had never shot lower than 71 at Spyglass. A lot of elevation changes, mud balls. I mean, just really difficult golf.
Yeah, there's for the USAM there was rough that was crazy thick. You were basically wedging it out if you missed the fairway, so it was tough. But it was definitely a good learning experience for my first U.S. junior. Actually, for a lot of these USGA events, I've had to play well down the stretch and make it through in a playoff. In my first USAM, I was 16 and birdied the last 3 to get in the playoff, and then it got too dark for the playoff. We had to come back the next morning and ended up winning that. And then right after that, I had to go get my driver's license. So that was pretty funny.
You at 14, you were still not a very good player, and at 16, you're making the U.S. Men's Amateur. That's a pretty. So it's obvious you have ability to learn and advance your game pretty quickly. How are we going to take you from where you are now, which is way, way better? I mean, you've improved so much. What do you think is the next step for you to get to like being an elite college player? And do you think that's possible for you?
Yeah, I think it just starts with right now, just every day focusing on getting continuously better. I think one change I've made this season is just focusing a lot more on fitness and speed training, and I've definitely seen some gains there, and I think that'll be very helpful for my golf game for sure. But I think just one thing I'm working on is just setting a plan, focusing on what I'm working on, and staying consistent. And I think just creating all the right steps and going in the right direction for the spring season.
Let's talk about that speed. You came in August. Your average club head speed with a driver was 116, and right now it's almost 120. Is that correct?
Yeah. We were doing a lot more speed training this spring or this fall than I've ever done before, and I definitely seen some increases there.
Yeah, you've seen right at 3.3 miles per hour, which I'm not sure the distance that's given you, but it's changed a lot. Do you know what your average T-ball is now?
I'd probably say like 290 carry, okay. Maybe. I don't know. I think on the course I'm trying to swing smooth. I never really like to swing too hard when I'm on the course. So along with playing more golf last summer, you've actually started training a little bit differently than you've ever trained, and you're seeing benefits from that. Yeah, I think it definitely needed to happen. When I first got to Baylor, I probably weighed 135 pounds and hit it at least 20 yards or more less than I did now, and it was definitely some changes I need to make, and I still need to keep on going. Yeah, well, I mean, I think the natural progression, you've gotten stronger and more explosive, you're faster than you were. If you can continue to work on those other things. I really like, you said something earlier that we started about a year and a half ago on this team, and that is your putting basics, something you do every day that doesn't change, that you're always using as a yardstick to measure. You know, all the guys on the team are doing. We're a better team putting than we were a year and a half ago. Do you think it's an accident that our performance is better? I don't. No, definitely not. I think a lot of us were struggling last year with putting, and speaking about my game specifically, I felt like I was kind of just going through the motions on my putting practice and not really putting too much effort on creating like a deliberate plan on what I want to work on, and I think now that I've kind of gotten a routine on and figured out the drills that work best for me, it has just given me some confidence on the putting green. I think confidence is definitely one of the most important things to have when you're putting or any part of your game. Yeah, I think so too. I think that I think it's showing in your game. I think everything about your game has gotten better. And as a coach, I'm looking forward to the next step, wherever it goes for you. But one of the other things that's not unique at Baylor, but is different, perhaps, is the fact that we take academics so seriously and that it's very important. And I think it's important to also note that we don't feel that just because you work very hard at academics that it's going to take away from your golf. In fact, I think it'll enhance because of the discipline. When I'm at a tournament, I don't want my players all worried about the mountain of paperwork they've got. I want them to have gotten a lot of it done beforehand. So what are your secrets on being successful in the classroom despite the fact you're a Division I athlete? I think the best thing for me is just to plan out my day and plan out when I'm practicing, when I'm doing homework, and when I'm doing other things, because sometimes it can be easy to get distracted or not put towards the effort you need to for school. But like you mentioned, I think for me, being successful in school has also helped me with my golf game, because it's helped me balance my time better and feel like I can put some discipline towards that. Like for tournaments, I kind of learned the hard way that you definitely need to do your work beforehand. If you're at a tournament and doing homework at 11:30 or midnight, you're not gonna play how you want to.
Sometimes it's inevitable. You have maybe a test that's only given at a certain time, so you have to take it online or something, at night or something. But my goal is always to have the players doing as little schoolwork on the road as possible, so that they've taken care of it beforehand. And so you guys all do a good job of that. Your major is finance, but it didn't start out that way, and it's upset one of your teammates. Describe that.
Yeah, so I used to be an accounting major, and then kind of learned that I wasn't really having too much fun there. It was difficult and just wasn't the most enjoyable. And I think I had about every finance class with Johnny and Luke up to that point. And at the time, it was me and Luke in that accounting class, and kind of left him on his own in the major. And he always likes to mention that I basically don't do any homework now that I've left the major. He thinks
you just need to remind him that you do a better job of managing your time than he does.
Yeah.
You're a smarter kid than he is, right? I mean, he's just got to know that.
Yeah. I always like to joke around pretending I got a ton of homework and I'm just working on it nonstop and always just more efficient with my time.
Well, I want my listeners to understand that a finance degree at Baylor is pretty difficult too. That's not that easy.
Yeah, it is difficult.
You just didn't enjoy accounting. So, one of the things Scout McNeely did was he started out in a computer science degree and then went to statistics. He found something he enjoyed a little bit more and succeeded at it greatly. So your secret is you plan. You plan out better than maybe a lot of people.
Yeah, I would say so. I think I've learned from. I think Scott was a great example. Living with him my freshman year, he was computer science. I know he wasn't having the most fun with it. He would be staying up till 3 a.m. or sometimes staying up all night doing homework, and then he has a workout at 6 a.m. the next day. It's just he wasn't happy with it, but he was always very dedicated to what he was working on. I think I kind of focused on that and took some of his plan and how he looked at homework.
Sure.
Work
Yeah.
And,
I mean, several times in several episodes of Better Than I Found It, I've come to realize that a lot of your success in college is going to be from learning from your teammates, from watching your teammates, from supporting your teammates, from getting support from your teammates. And I know that all of the guys in this team have supported you in a big way, but you've also benefited because you've taken their advice or you've watched their example or whatever. College golf is a very unique thing in the sense that it's not a big team, pretty small team, and we're all benefiting from each other's examples. So one of the things that you've got too that's not unique to you, but is certainly unique to your age group, and that is the COVID fifth year. When you were a freshman, our season got canceled March 12th. So you and Johnny and Luke Dossie all had the option of whether or not to take a COVID fifth year. And so far, you've decided that's what you'd like to do. Talk about that decision.
Yeah, I think Johnny, Luke, and I are all planning on taking a fifth year as of now. And I think it'd just be a great opportunity to play another year with the team. I think we could only get better as a team and just keep working at it. And I think one more year is definitely an opportunity to just develop my game more for professional golf and just continue improving. I think when I've been at Baylor is when I've definitely seen some of the best increases in my game for sure. So being able to stay one more year and working with you and Coach Mikkel and being with everyone on the team will definitely be beneficial for me.
It's impossible to over-prepare for pro golf.
Yeah.
There's no way you can be too good for pro golf.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have an additional year the NCAA gave you and you're using it to your advantage, I mean, that's outstanding and obviously would make our team a lot better too. So a ton of teams that have had COVID fifth kids, And we got Colin Cober and Cooper Dossie were the first kid. They were seniors when COVID hit, and they came back for a 5th year, which was great.
Yeah.
So our spring season, we will you're getting ready to take finals this week, and then we're going to an off season until about January 15th. We get back, and we have about a month before we travel to Laredo, Texas. So we're going south in February. It'll be warm. It'll be 80 degrees. We go from Laredo, that's the Border Olympics, which is the oldest continuously running collegiate event, period. Then we go to Palm Springs, which should be fun because we'll get to go out and spend some time with your former teammate, Scout McNeely.
Yeah.
From there, we go to Cabo, have a little bit of a break. Then they have the Aggie Invitational, Arizona State Tournament, and then the Big 12 at Prairie Dunes. That's a pretty busy spring. You ready for that?
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's a good spring schedule, and I think we're gonna play very well this year. I think we made some good progress in the fall, and I think everyone's just working to continuously get better. And I'm excited for the postseason for sure.
All right, so off season, before that, spring season, we're going to play off season. You've already given us a little over 3 miles an hour of club hit speed. What are you going to gain over the Christmas break?
Probably 5 more.
Okay. Well, I'm all for that, but can you conceive that it's possible you could get a couple more in there?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think just continuing to do what I've done, and I think I'll gain some more club head speed for sure. I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been helpful for you already, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Tyler, we've got, before we finish here, I want to do a speed round with you, which I've done with most of the guests, not all of them, but most of them. And you've heard some of these questions before, and some of them, you know, because you've listened to the podcast, you know some of the answers people give, but I've got some unusual ones for you as well. So here we go. Speed round. Chick-fil-A or Chipotle, which is your favorite?
Got to go Chick-fil-A.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm convinced.
I think it's one of the best fast food chains
You
of
like
all
that?
time. For
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. Have you ever? Okay. Very good. Shawshank Redemption or Remember the Titans?
I'm gonna go Remember the Titans.
Okay. Good team.
Yeah, I think that's
Great team experience right there for sure. George Strait or Luke Bryan? First of all, have you listened to either?
I have.
Okay.
I kind of get a lot of hate for not being a country fan,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely an unpopular opinion on the team.
Yeah.
I think I'll go George Strait just to make you happy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a real good decision on your part right
Yeah.
there. Favorite course we play each year so far that you've played?
Probably Olympia Fields.
Okay. Yeah, I think Olympia Fields is hard to beat. It's a great experience anyway, but just an amazing golf course. A tournament you'd most like to win one day?
I think it's a pretty standard opinion, but the Masters. I find it hard to beat the Masters.
What's your favorite Masters you've ever watched?
I actually went to the Masters in 2015 when Jordan won.
Okay.
For Saturday, Sunday, and that was so fun to watch.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth. Wow,
It's definitely my favorite tournament to see. And it was cool seeing Tiger win not too long ago.
Yeah, in 2019. Favorite pro golfer and why?
I would say Jordan Spieth. Just talked about him, but he is my favorite golfer growing up. I think he's got a good game. He's really fun to watch, and I think he's got a really good attitude towards golf.
Yeah, I have a hard time finding anyone that would say that Jordan Spieth's not been good for the game. He's been a great ambassador. He's actually fought a slump and come through it and is playing great these days. Great guy. Okay, Chicago Cubs or Chicago White Sox?
Cubs, for sure.
You're a Cubs guy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, our former volunteer assistant, Brian Dolhide, was a White Sox fan. I guess you guys had some pretty good rivalries there.
Yeah, right now, Chicago sports haven't been too great, so
You know,
I'd be fine with the White Sox playing well, but
you're a Cubs guy.
yeah, I'd love to
Okay.
for them to keep.
Most famous person you've ever played golf with? Scout McNeely? I mean, who is it?
Yeah, it's got to be Scout for sure. No,
Come on, you played with a tour player, haven't you?
I've just played with. I really haven't played with too many tour players. I played a couple holes with Kevin Streelman before.
We'll go with Kevin Streelman. Most famous person you ever had dinner with? You know, I'm asking that question. You're only 20 years old, 21 years old. Okay, so nobody you've ever eaten dinner with. I mean, I've got to be the best competitive eater you've ever eaten with.
Yeah,
for certain, no question.
I don't think anyone's beating you in a competition.
Not in those competitions. How many holes in one have you made?
3.
Any in competition?
No.
No.
They're actually all within like 15 minutes of my house and.
Oh, just right there near home
in Geneva. All 3 at different courses. So.
Okay. Dream foursome, you and 3 other players. Who would they be?
I'd say Tiger Woods, my dad, and maybe Arnold Palmer too. I think it'd be cool to play with those guys for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tiger and Arnold, 2 of the most famous, favorite people of all times, and then your dad is your favorite. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much for spending about 45 minutes with us today. I'm excited about our year that we've got going on here, and certainly wishing you the best in your finals as you prepare and then take those.
Yeah, thanks so much, Coach. It's been fun to be on the podcast.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Take care.